Hi, I'm Stuart. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Thanks for viewing my video. In this video I'm going to do the Bella Italia tag. This tag was created by Daniela at Uncommon Reader and Emily at the Linguist Library. I was tagged in videos by Emily, Philip at A Poet Reads to Write, and Pat at Book Chat with Pat 8668. So thanks for all you for creating this and tagging me. I'm just going to repeat what Daniela said to explain this tag. Welcome to Uncommon Reader. Here's something to take your January blues away. I collaborated with Emily of the Linguist Library on a new original tag. Consider yourself tags if you're watching. Enjoy. I'm going to put links to Daniela's and Emily's videos so you can watch them if you like. Here's what they say. Happy 2025. We'd like to start the year in style, taking you to beautiful Italy. 10 iconic places of La Bella Italia inspired our literary journey. Your book choices don't have to relate necessarily to Italy, of course. Forget the blues. Tag others and let's have an adventurous and romantic January. I should say that Daniela is Italian citizen living in Italy, and Emily is an aficionado of all things Italian. There are 10 prompts plus a bonus prompt in this tag. I have not, with the exception of one or two things I thought of when I watched their videos, and the videos of Pat and Philip too. Had an idea or two, but right this moment as I'm recording this, I don't have very many ideas. So I think this one might require a little more thought than I've had to put into tag videos recently. The first prompt is All Roads Lead to Rome. History, historical novels. For this prompt, a book did come to mind to me when I was watching other videos, and that is The Children of Athena by Charles Freeman, Greek Intellectuals in the Age of Rome, AD 250 BC to 400 AD. Although this talks about Greek intellectuals, this was during the period when Rome was building its empire, becoming the most powerful, I don't know if you call it a country or a kingdom, but of the time. Probably up to that time, they're probably the most powerful. So even though this book talks about Greek intellectuals, they certainly had a lot of interactions with Romans, Roman emperors, Roman citizens, and I think this book really does encompass this prompt because even though the book is set in Greece, all roads did lead to Rome, especially as the book went further and further into the time period that it talks about. The book I previously talked about fits in the history category, but I did look up and discover a good book in the historical category, and that is The Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. This was set in the 1840s in Mexico. It was at a time when, I don't know if it was open war, but there were battles between the U.S. and Mexico for land. And that's a big part of this story. It also talks about what it was like for people, especially women, living at that time in the 1840s Mexico. So this novel fits that category well. The second prompt is Wherefore Art Thou, Verona? Romance books, literary fiction, ill-fated lovers. Romance books is an easy one for me. The book I choose is Funny Story by Emily Henry. I think that Emily Henry is the best popular romance writer of current times, and Funny Story was a great story. I quite enjoyed it. It's a fake lovers to friends to lovers story. Quite good one. Didn't actually realize I have read a fair amount, not considerable, fair amount of literary fiction. At least that Storygraph considers literary fiction. So I had a fair amount of books to choose from. For literary fiction, ill-fated lovers, I'm going to say The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. This is a dark fantasy. Not really a romance, but there is a pair of ill-fated lovers, and I'll leave it at that. The third prompt is Florence, Brushstrokes and Botticelli. Probably said that wrong. Books about art and music or artists. As far as books about music or artists, I'm going to go with Call Me Barbara by Barbra Streisand, a book I read late last year and early this year, mid of this year. She is a multi-hyphenate entertainer, actress, singer, Broadway performer, producer, director. She's done a lot of stuff in the arts, so Call Me Barbara by Barbra Streisand. A very long book, but she's had a long, distinguished career, so it was justified. Barbra Streisand's book is also a book about music, so it qualifies for 2 of the 3 things in this prompt. As far as art, I didn't really have anything except that I visited my local Barnes & Noble today and I picked up a few books. And one of the books I picked up was Your Brain on Art, How the Arts Transform Us by Susan Mag Salmon and Ivy Ross. This book here. So this book is about art. So first I got this book today so I could include this book in this tag. The fourth prompt is Sicily, Mists of Mount Etna, mythology, fantasy, and sci-fi books. As far as the myth portion of this, something came to me. I didn't really have to think about it. It's Lore Olympus by Rachel Smith, or it might be Rachel Smythe. I'm not sure how you pronounce Smythe. Apologies if I'm wrong. This is a webcomic which has been traditionally published in some very nice editions. It's a retelling of the Hades and Persephone myth. I'm only a little ways into this. I'm viewing this on an app for free. There's a lot of books I could say for fantasy, but I'm going to try not to say the ones I say all the time and say one I've mentioned less. And that is This Poison Heart by Kaylin Bayron. This story is a girl, Breesis. She has an ability to control plants, and plants also gravitate to her. She and her 2 mothers live in Brooklyn where there's not that many plants, so she can kind of avoid her talent becoming known. But they move to a place in upstate New York when Breesis inherits a house, and she can explore her powers. There a lot more happens than that, but this is a YA fantasy, kind of a fairy tale retelling, although I'm not sure exactly which fairy tale. The first book that came to mind for the sci-fi part of this prompt is The Martian by Andy Weir. An astronaut is left behind on the surface of Mars when the remainder of his crew have to leave. They think he's dead, but he's alive, and he has to try to survive long enough for him to be rescued. Quite a good novel, I recommend it. The fifth prompt is Bolognese Chronicles, food theme books. For this one, I am going to mention a book that I say a fair amount, although it's often in the memoir category or sometimes the music category. And that's Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. Talked about this book a fair amount, but a good part of this book is Michelle trying to learn to cook traditional Korean recipes as a way of memorializing her mother who had passed away young, and also to get to know her mother better because they had a tempestuous relationship. The sixth prompt is from Sardinia with Love, thriller, adventure, spy, heist books. The thriller I'm picking is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Black. This story, our protagonist, can't remember her name off the top of my head, but for a senior project, she decides to try to look into a murder that occurred. He looks into a murder, there was also an unaliving that occurred a few years back. It was considered resolved by law enforcement, but she has her doubts, and there's a lot of thrilling things in this book. To my mind, she kind of takes too many risks but I did love the book, so this is my thriller choice. For adventure, I'm going to go with A Journey to the Interior of the Earth by Jules Verne. I knew this book as Journey to the Center of the Earth, but I'm assuming this is the original title. In this story, I think it was 3 men attempt to journey to the center of the earth, as the title says. I've read this book a couple times. I find it quite thrilling. So this is my answer for the adventure category. Spy books isn't something I've read recently. At one time I did read some books by Robert Ludlum. I read books by John le Carre. Way back I read books by Ian Fleming, James Bond books, but not something I read recently. But there is a book, I've only barely started it, so I normally wouldn't want to include a book like this, but because it's the only one I have, I'm going to include it. It's Alias Emma by Ava Glass. It's about a British spy, and there are some Russian, I guess they were scientists who were it's taken in the West, and now they're being assassinated. And the protagonist, by the name of I can't remember her name, but she's trying to solve it. As far as a heist book, this is, I think, stretching the definition a bit, and this is also a book I've only read a little bit of and put it aside. I'm going to get back to it. I didn't stop because it wasn't interesting, but the book is The Missing Crypto Queen, the $1 billion cryptocurrency con, and the woman who got away with it by Jamie Bartlett. And can't remember the woman's name, but she was a really highly thought of, very well educated, successful in business, and she swindled, I think, people out of a lot of money through cryptocurrency. I haven't got to the point where she actually did that, but at the point I was at, there was like, you could see there was kind of like thinking that way. I think this book is mostly interesting in why a person who's so successful would resort to something that criminal when you think they have everything. It's like when an executive, some like $1 million executive, ends up going to jail for something, and you wonder why. What, didn't you have enough? I think it's that kind of that type of book. The 7th prompt is Venice in a Gondola with Casanova. Forbidden Love Affairs books. For this one, I'm going to have to repeat the answer that I said to one of the previous prompts, because I think it's the best answer for this one. And that is Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. In this story, the man is a child of a vaquero, which is a Mexican cowboy, perhaps more properly a Mexican ranch hand, and he becomes a vaquero himself, and the woman is the daughter of the ranchers, and it's not truly forbidden, but it's one of those things that it would be scandalous. It would bring shame upon her family if she were to have a love affair with him. So I think this best qualifies for this prompt. The 8th prompt is Naples Never Sleeps, mystery/horror/gothic books. As far as mystery, I'm going to go with a traditional answer, the most popular mystery writer of all time, so I guess it's a pretty safe answer. It's The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. It's a Hercule Poirot mystery. This was a very clever mystery, and this book, after 2 or 3 Hercule Poirot books that didn't really do it for me, I thought he was no longer for me. I had read a lot as a kid and loved him, but thought he was no longer for me. But this book showed me that Hercule Poirot books can still be for me if they're the right books. Very clever mystery. For the horror part of this prompt, I'm going to choose You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kaylin Bayron. This is an interesting take on the final girl summer camp slasher genre with a bit of a sapphic romance thrown in for good measure. It's a quite enjoyable book. For the gothic part of this prompt, I'm going to go with We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, a book that I recently read and liked a great deal. The 9th prompt is Tales of Torino, La Magica, Ghosts and Legend Stories, Novellas, Short Stories, Plays, and Folklore. For Ghosts and Legends, I'm going to go with A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. Can't say really why I picked this book because it might be a spoiler, but I think it is an appropriate choice. For novellas, I'm going to go with The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. It is 64 pages long, a quite thrilling book. For short stories, I'm going to go with Little Paranoias by Sonora Taylor. It is a selection of short stories, some as little as a page. For plays, there's really only one that I've read in years, and that is William Shakespeare's Cymbeline, unabridged by William Shakespeare. I didn't understand everything about it, but I did enjoy it. For folklore, I'll change it up a little bit. I'm going to just go with this Taylor Swift album, which is in fact called Folklore. I'm sure it does have a booklet in it, so I suppose it's a little bit of a book, I suppose, but this just came to mind to me, and I don't know if I know anything folklore, so I chose this. The 10th prompt is Music in Milan, any genre. I looked at my Storygraph stats since I started, which is almost 3 years ago, and there's a few categories I've only read one book in. I picked politics. That book is Bullshit Jobs, A Theory by Dave Graeber. That book is basically, as the title suggests, that there's a fair amount of jobs people do which serve no real purpose. They're not necessary. The bonus prompt is Bonus Postcards from Italy, a book set in Italy. This is another one I didn't really have to think about. The book I choose is One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. As the title would suggest, it's set in Italy during the summer, and the protagonist goes there for vacation. Kind of to get away from some stuff going on in her life too, but... So One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. A pretty good romance. I quite enjoyed it. Anybody who's viewing this video, I'm tagging you. If you'd like to do this video, please do so. One or more of the prompts in a video of your own or in my comments. Be interested in hearing your answers. But I am going to tag some specific people. Tagging Nigel at readingideas-uz9xk, Janet at Squid and Dragons-LH3ZM, Nix at Nix Reads, Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading, Smitty at Book Smitten, Kayla V at Reading with Kayla V, Justin at Trumpful Reads, Melena at Melena Milano 8833, Fred at Read by Fred, Roy at Roy Reads Anything, Jenna at Literary Love 123, Flossie at the Grape Jelly Library, Maeve at Maeve_ever_books, I at I Lie with 2 I's, Nicole at Nicole's Bookish Nook, Cliff at Cliff's Dark Gems. Again, no expectations. If you think you might enjoy these prompts, please do so. I'd be interested in seeing your video. I hope you're having a wonderful reading week. I hope you're having a wonderful week in general. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like, please subscribe, please hit the bell to get notified when I upload future videos.